Okay, great. All right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. What's going on, Azeem? How's life going?
Wa alaikum salam. I'm great. That Muslim guy. How are you, Muhammad?
Doing good, alhamdulillah, doing great. Thank you for reaching out. I believe you reached out to me and you said, we have some very similar content, some good content, educating people about different
Yes.
topics around the world, revolving around Islam.
Yeah, I know. I reached
Let's
out to
do a
you a
collaboration.
long time ago, about 3 months ago. You remember that or not? Then
Yeah,
you
yeah.
were
Alhamdulillah,
don't
we're
use
getting it
Facebook
done.
that much. Yeah. Finally, we are here. Finally, we are here. So yes.
First, I wanted to ask you, so
You t-
how long what is your channel's name, just for my subscribers who might not have heard of your channel? What's your channel's name and what contents do you cover?
Well, my name is Azeem Haider, and my channel's name is ICR Productions. That's I Converse Reality. So, in basically, I'm covering the current affairs, usually the domestic affairs related to Pakistan. I've covered a couple of global affairs as well. So, pretty much on those lines, and on the side, because of lots and lots of my family and friends demanding a little on the film side as well. I've covered global issue related to depression in a short film as well. So I've made a short film, and usually I cover the current affairs topics. That's why I reached out to you as well, so we can have a little discussion on the current ongoing issues, and we can carry out a session, discuss how it is.
Perfect. Very, very nice. And so that's why you started your channel essentially? Like you had family and friends, they knew you had interests and you were pretty good at breaking down certain political issues, and they said, why don't you do this for people on the internet as well?
So basically, I'm a writer, and I have several research publications as well. I'm a freelancer as well, and I can write and speak well. And I have participated in several debate competitions over my life as well. I was president of the debating society in my school and college. So I could speak well, but I never utilized it in the right way. So my family, my friends always used to tell me, do something about it, do something about it. And I was like, all right, let's make a channel and see how far it can go. And finally, my family, my friends, they supported me well, and I have about 1K subscribers by now, and I guess going not too bad, not too good on the other side.
It's a good
And what
start.
about
At the
you?
end of the day, as long as you like doing it and you keep doing it consistently, then the only way to grow
Yeah,
up, right?
yeah, that's true. And what about you? I've seen your channel as well, that Muslim guy. You've been doing it for long, aren't you? I mean, 3 to 4
Yeah,
years. That's how it is.
it's been about 4 years now. So time flies when you're having fun, right? So
Yeah,
it's been
yeah.
a
I
little
know.
while, yeah. So for subscribers of yours who may have not heard of my channel, so it's that Muslim guy, and essentially what
Yeah.
I do is I talk about Islam and I educate people about Islam using comedy, because I figured
Mhm.
people like to laugh. It's a great
Yes,
way to
that's true.
introduce a topic, and if people are willing to laugh, they're willing to learn. So when I talk about Islam and politics, I like to add an element of humor, comedy skits, etc., to educate people while keeping things slightly lighthearted.
Mhm.
Yep.
That's true. And
And
3 years
same,
of struggle, and finally that Rihanna's video.
yeah, right?
So tell me your feeling about that. Tell me your feeling,
Yeah.
because I haven't got that viral as of yet. So tell me how it feels to get such a video that much viral.
It feels weird. I'll put it that way. It feels weird because you go from just a few hundred views, 1,000 views every now and then, to suddenly something that hits almost 100,000. You're taken aback, and your heart skips a beat. You're like, does this mean I made it, or does this just mean I have
So,
to keep finding trends like this?
so did you go on the Google after that video and write up that how to handle fame? Did you search something like that, or not? I don't know. Because, suddenly
No,
100K.
I just hired an agent. He takes care of everything.
All right, that's nice.
He also happens to
That's
look like
nice.
me and might be me, so.
Yeah, that's nice.
But
That's nice.
but yeah,
So,
alhamdulillah. And same thing, like at work, I typically like as we mentioned, when I was talking to you previously, I said that I'm an auditor. So even like in the office, I had a lot of people ask me questions, whether it's during Ramadan, whether fasting, whether I'm going to pray in a meeting room, and they're like, what are you doing, right? Or even ISIS does something on the news, and I'm suddenly the representative for all Muslims and have to answer on behalf of all Islam in the office. So I figured so many people have these questions. Why don't I just make videos about this? And then 4 years ago, I started my channel. For starters, we just want to talk about a few of the events that have been happening over the past couple of weeks, especially in Europe. And it's been a roller coaster ride in terms of news, right? So for
yo, It always has been, and even whenever it's about Muslims or Christians or interreligious, intercaste, whenever it is, it's always that roller coaster thing in the news.
Yeah. So for starters, the terrorist attack that happened in France when the Charlie Hebdo, when the teacher showed those Charlie Hebdo characters or cartoons in class, and then that terrorist attack took place, and then it took place in Austria later on. First of all, how did you find out about those, and what was your initial reaction when all this happened?
Well, there are two sides of the story as I see it. First of all, Europe and Western media and everyone blaming Muslims for all that. As usual, that's nothing new for me. But on the other side of the story, the way I see it is that being Muslims, we are doomed. I mean, as a Muslim Ummah, if we see the contemporary issues of Muslim Ummah right now, the puppet so-called organization OIC doing nothing, UAE accepting Israel. So we are doomed as a society. You look at the individual level, you look at the societal level. I mean, you might as well call me a fundamentalist over here, but how many of us do really level basics of Islam? That's what we have forgotten. And finally, we are so much doomed as a society that we're facing such circumstances and such consequences at the end of the day. And it is, of course, they're blaming us and they will keep blaming us and they will always create a hype. But again, at the end of the day, it is our things which we are facing at the end of the day. So that's my say at it. What do you say about it?
I think you kind of covered it in the sense where, from what I understood from that, is that Muslims are not unified anywhere. We're so divided, like it's not even funny at that point, right? Because I find it hilarious. Like as Muslims, we know Muslims are divided all over the world. But then Islamophobes think the exact opposite. They think Muslims are united all over the world, and there's this massive conspiracy to take over the West, and we're all sleeper cells just waiting for the right moment to strike. But Allah, if they how divided we were, they'd be like,
oh, I know.
Maybe we've misjudged, right? So I think the way I look at it, it's a very nuanced topic, of course, but of course there are some, I don't even want to call them extremists, because they're not extremists, they are radicals that have nothing to do with our religion, right? So we have people who are these radicals, we have to call them fundamentalists, who commit acts of terror, right? And then we have these far-right Islamophobes, anti-Muslims, people who want to eradicate Islam from the face of the earth. And then when you look at both their ideologies, they both agree on the same thing, and that's Muslims cannot coexist in the West. Islam tells you to be people, and Islam is about violence. So both of them agree on the same thing, and yet the two Muslims who disagree with both sides are the ones that have to suffer for it.
Where I also see the problem is that 1400 years back, when Islam actually originated in Arabs, and it was a religion of fewer people than it is now. So slowly, gradually, it started expanding. It went in Africa, it came in subcontinent, it came in South Asia, it went in Europe. So what happened actually over there was when, for example, Islam came in Pakistan and India, what people did over here, they accepted Islam as the religion, but retained their culture. So lots and lots of cultural invasions over the time, and people making their own interpretations. And all right, it is fine up to the common people. They can have their own interpretations. When it started coming to the ulama, the scholars of Islam, making their own interpretation, misguiding the people in the wrong direction, that's where the problem actually started. I mean, of course, I respect all the scholars of Islam. The many scholars are doing great work, but there is a minute amount of scholars who have misguided and misinterpreted Islam for their own use, and they have damaged the image of Islam. So that's where the cultural invasion started. And thanks to John F. Kennedy, I mean, I really like him as a leader, but again, he gave us cellular technology, he gave us networking, he gave us internet, he gave us Wi-Fi, and here we are in a social media world right now where cultural invasion is just absolutely embarking the globe right now. So I believe that those cultural invasions and that differences between West and Muslims, which are being shown by media and on the social media and every other platform, have created a huge gap, and that has shown Muslims as extremists and all those things. So that's where I think the problem actually originated, and slowly, gradually, it was on the rise, and that's where we are right now.
Yeah, I think I personally I believe that there is an element of truth to that. It is a multifaceted issue, right? On one end, we know when Islam spread around the world, right? And of course, the media likes to say that Islam spread by the sword. And then when you actually look at the facts, look at history, you see that that was not actually, that was not possible because they didn't have enough manpower to spread by the sword, right? So the only other logical explanation is word of mouth and through trade. So a lot of that did happen when Islam spread rapidly through trade, through word of mouth. And yes, there were military inquisitions as well. That was the time that they lived in. Makes sense. If anyone read a page of history and you looked at it objectively, there's no problem with that. But Islam existed in so many different countries and adapted in so many different cultures, where as long as you kept the core belief the same, but you had a slightly different culture, different colors, different way of dressing, that's okay. What that showed was that Islam is not an Arabic religion. Islam is not a religion that only belongs in the Middle East. Islam is a religion that you can apply anywhere in life. So you live in Canada, the United States, UK, any place in Europe, South America, Eastern Asia, Middle Eastern Asia, it doesn't matter. Islam can be applied anywhere. The problem is the double standards and hypocrisy in the media. Because, of course, when you have a religion of 2 billion people, that's like, what is that, almost a quarter or a third of the world?
Yes, that's true.
Of course, you're going to have people who have, small groups of people who have a different interpretation, although in many cases it's not a different interpretation, it's a deliberate misinterpretation for their own political gains. Of course you're going to have those, but it's not just Islam. You have those in every religion in the world. The only difference is, people will say, well, the only difference is in Islam, they commit terrorism. Actually, all religions will have people and pockets who commit acts of violence, acts of terrorism. The only difference is you don't see them on the news because it's not newsworthy, because it's not clickbait, because it doesn't match the media spread narrative. Muslims are evil, this brown man in a beard is evil, this woman in a headscarf is evil. That gets news. If you say this nice white man killed 10 people in a church, people don't pay as much attention.
And that's something which I believe actually started after 9/11 as well, because things got worse. Because I believe I was reading, I'm a student of history as well, 30 years ago, just go 30 years back, in 1990s, you ask who a terrorist is, and it will be a red-headed, white, Irish guy with a beer in his hand. That's what a terrorist would be. That's what a terrorist would look like. But again, at the end of the day, we don't go on that side. Now everything is on the Muslims, and as an individual, on the societal level, we're doomed. And that's why we, on the individual level and even at the governmental level, we're not able to properly unify and form a system or a mechanism that can actually defy those media interpretations. And that's where I think the things go wrong.
Yeah, and I'm going to extend an olive branch to the Islamophobes, okay? Just so they can stay on this page and not immediately turn away and say, these are apologists and they're creating... Yes, there are Muslims who commit terrorism in the name of Islam. That does not mean Islam told them
promotes that. Yes.
It does not mean Islam preaches this. It means these people are uneducated, ignorant, or even learned by someone with a deliberate misinterpretation, which is, again, a very small minority. And something happens like the Charlie Hebdo caricatures, right? And they get angry, and what do? They lash out based on emotions, and they go and commit a terrorist attack. Now, as Muslims, it is on us to first and foremost say that is wrong and condemn it. Many people, many Muslims will say, well, it's not fair that we have to keep condemning, because when people ask us to condemn, it means that they believe we're already guilty until we condemn, guilty until proven innocent. And although I agree that it's not fair, this is the world we live in. And if you don't condemn, people will say, then you condone. So as Muslims, we have to, of course, loud and clear say this is against our religion. This goes against the teachings of Islam. This goes against the teaching of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Because Islam in the Quran, I made, I believe, 3 videos about this, explaining what the Quran says about responding to people who mock you, right? Like something, a very simple verse, وَعِبَادُ الرَّحْمَنِ الَّذِينَ يَمْشُونَ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ هَوْنًا وَإِذَا خَاطَبَهُمُ الْجَاهِلُونَ قَالُوا سَلَامًا. Super beautiful, super simple. If ignorant people come and address you in a harsh way, in an ignorant way, you say salam, words of peace.
Yeah, yes, that's it.
You walk away. Unless they're physically trying to kill you and attack you, you're not allowed to take that physical action against anyone. And of course, you have to learn that and be educated about it. But many people are not, and then when they see something, they act upon emotion, and then of course, the one bad Muslim becomes a representative for all Muslims, and we're all.
Yes, that's true. And talking about the dual standards as well, if you remember a few years back when James Corbyn, the president of Labour Party in London, he spoke about Semitism. And afterwards, he had to come publicly and apologize for that. So that's where the dual standards start. When you talk about Semitism and all those things, at the end of the day, you have to come and apologize. There's no way you can talk, share, or say anything about those events which happened about 50 to 60 years back. So that's where the dual standards start. And then they talk about freedom of speech. And when you talk about freedom of speech, your freedom of speech, if you say something freely, it will offend me at the end of the day. For example, you are in favor of something, I'm not. So it is going to offend me, I understand. But again, at the end of the day, we should put a limit to it, that this is it. This is which we should not cross. So, and blasphemy, I guess, is the case which is in most countries is condemned, and you have constituent, and even in the constitutions, you have amendments and bills where you can go prison for that as well, except in few Western countries.
No, and it's not a very easy topic to talk about, because some people will say freedom of speech means absolute freedom and nothing is immune to mockery, right? But then at what point do we draw the line between free speech and hate speech?
Yes.
It's a very fine line.
Yes.
But no one has been able to really determine what is freedom of speech and what constitutes as hate speech. But I believe, in my opinion, the moment your speech is inciting violence and promoting violence towards a group of people, you have crossed that line from freedom of speech to hate speech. Unfortunately, many people will hide behind freedom of speech as they are demanding the eradication and kicking out an entire group of people. And of course, like you mentioned, the double standards. If you say something against, Jewish people, you're immediately called anti-Semitic, and they stop you right where you are in your tracks, which I agree with. As Muslims, we're not against Jews, not against Christians. We call them people of the book. So we're against speech about Jews as well. But then why don't we apply that to Muslims as well? Why is it anti-Semitism is bad, but Islamophobia is freedom of speech? So
amazing, isn't it?
It's actually, so what happened, those are two separate items actually. So there was an item right after the terrorist attack in France, a priest was shot. I believe it was in front of his church or something. A priest was shot. And I don't know about you, but whenever anything comes out as terrorism, as a human being, the first thing you're supposed to say is, I hope nobody got hurt. But unfortunately, as a Muslim, now it's like, please don't be Muslim. Please don't be Muslim, right? Like, and then you're like,
I understand that.
And then you're like, and I hope nobody got hurt, but please don't be Muslim. Don't do it. And because because whenever they say the word terrorism, they're talking about Muslims. It's nobody else. And what it turns out was, he was shot by another priest. So priest on priest. The moment they found out it wasn't a Muslim, it was a priest, wasn't in the news anymore. It
Yes, that's
vanished.
true.
Nobody even talked about it. Because if he was Muslim, he'd still be apologizing. He's not Muslim. It's no longer newsworthy.
That's it. He is no longer in the news. He's no longer in the
Exactly.
headlines.
It's
Nowhere.
not clickbait worthy. But then right after, there were white nationalists. They belonged to, what was it, the white identitarian movement? I forget what it was called. It's a French white nationalist movement. And multiple people were committed terrorist attacks using weapons, of course. And one of them was shot dead after yelling Allahu Akbar and firing at police. Immediately, terrorist attack, Muslims. Eventually, the police were like, actually, he was a white supremacist belonging to this white supremacist movement, Muslim, and he yelled Allahu Akbar to be Muslim. Like, I couldn't make this stuff up. Like, why? And he was shot dead. And another one was arrested, also pretending to be an Islamic extremist. And they were all eventually found out to be non-Muslims and belonging to the white.
Let me add on to that. Let me tell you a story. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I was watching a video of one of very famous anchor persons in Pakistan. I won't name him, but he's very authentic, very recognized and recommended, one of the recommended anchor persons. And he was speaking about a story. He was sitting with a imam of Muslim area in DG Khan, Dera Ghazi Khan, it's an area in Pakistan. He was sitting with him and he was talking to him. And then he went out and then he investigated about him. And he was actually an evangelist Christian preaching Islam in that mosque for 18 years. He was actually from Israel. I heard that story and then I investigated it on my own. I had a sitting with that anchor person and I investigated and I even got to know about more things that what's happening over here. And I was absolutely shocked. So that was just Allahu Akbar and he was like, let's pretend to be Muslims. But over here, he was teaching Islam, preaching Islam. He was an imam, he had a beard, he had that imama, and he was preaching in Jummah prayers and everything for 18 years.
But then when you're talking about, like some people pretending to be imams and things like that, the thing is, it doesn't surprise me very much because there are people who with deliberate misinterpretations of Islam and then they eventually start their own groups like ISIS or whatnot. Many of them are funded from the United States of America. Many of them was funded by the United States to fight the Soviet Union, right? And they say this, they said this on camera. Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama said this on camera. And they laughed about it. The head of the CIA laughed about it. He was like, oh, we're going to take down Iraq and 6 other countries. And they're laughing about it, and people are giving them a standing ovation.
I said, we're going to war with Iraq. Why? He said, I don't know. He said, I guess they don't know what else to do. We've got a good military and we can take down governments.
We had this brilliant idea that we were going to come to Pakistan and create a force of mujahideen, equip them with Stinger missiles and everything else to go after the Soviets inside Afghanistan.
The people we are fighting today, we funded 20 years ago.
And then when you and I come out on a video and we say, oh, these were funded by, Western influence, people go, oh, conspiracy theories. No. U.S. politicians and former presidents said this, right? And I was listening, I don't know if you listened to the Jimmy Dore show. Have you ever listened?
No. Before? At times, man, might be.
Yeah, so Jimmy Dore, he's a comedian / political commentator. A great show. If you ever have time, watch it. So he had a journalist on, and the journalist was talking about entrapment and how whenever we see many cases in the United States and in Canada, when we see news about in the front page newspaper saying intelligence or police authority or whoever have caught a ring of Muslim terrorists and they caught them committing a crime right before the bomb went off. They said 9 times out of 10, more often than not, those were people entrapped by the intelligence forces, by the Central Intelligence, whereby they find someone who's mentally and emotionally unstable, who's isolated from the community. Maybe they have some views that Muslims want nothing to do with, and they go, "What's up, buddy? Yo, Osama, how you doing?" And then they'll start to put things in their mind. Oh, did you know this and that? They'll get an informant who looks like us, looks Arab, looks a little brown. Maybe they give him some eyebrow implants so he gets thicker eyebrows. I don't know. and maybe the fake beard, and they're like, okay, yeah, befriend him and try to push him towards committing a terrorist attack. Next thing you know, 6 months down the road, they provide him with everything he needs to do a terrorist attack, and then they stop him right in the last minute, and they go, terrorist ring, Islamic extremists, caught. And then what does that do? It keeps fear-mongering, and it shows that, hey, we're doing our job of stopping terrorism, and their funding goes up. So it's ridiculous how...
It is very crazy. Yeah, I know. And we finally have a mosque in Athens after 200 years ago. I just was watching your video. And
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that either. I was just like, wow, that's huge. 200 years, really?
You know, the thing is, I didn't even know about this. Like, once I heard about this, I looked it up. There are a few videos out there about Athens being one of the only cities in the world without a mosque. And they have, I believe, 100,000 Muslims or something. And it's crazy. And although it does sound crazy, but when you look at Greece's history with the Ottoman Empire, etc., it kind of makes sense. But 200 is a long time.
Just literally wrapping up the conversation, Mohammed, where do you see Muslim Ummah in next 30 to 50 years?
Honestly, it's a very difficult question, but I think we're just going to be, or, like, as someone who's not a scholar nor like a well-renowned historian, but I can just say based on my 20 plus years of existence on this earth, right? It's just going to be more and more disunity going down, just more and more disunity. I think we're going to see more of our governments not representing the people. And of course, they haven't since like World War I, World War II, right? But
I don't know actually. I don't know actually, because as I see the global dynamics going on right now, the thing between China and America and the alliances which are coming up are really, really interesting to me. Because if you see on one side, we have Pakistan, Turkey, China, Russia, Iran. And on the other side, you see it's Saudi, America, India, and India, that they have even more than 50 million of Muslim population out there. So I personally see that if this anything like that ever happens, the only party who can actually benefit from it are Muslims at the end of the day. Because it's going to be a big loss for US and China in terms of trades and everything. If, for instance, we go on for a hybrid war or anything, because we are at a situation we can't lose anymore. We have nothing to lose. So from here on, that's being an optimist, where I see we are going to go on the upper side from here on. That's what I see personally. And what I've witnessed in my 24 years of existence over here as well, that when I was a child, I mean, I don't know, I've grown up in a Pakistani family, I've born and brought up over here. What I used to see before going to London, that, for example, a Sunni never went to a Wahhabi mosque to pray, a Wahhabi never came to a Sunni mosque, but I see that people now over here, and after coming back from London, I see many scholars in Pakistan and an international level, for example, Mufti Menk and Naman Ali Khan, all those people doing a great, great job of bringing people together. And I see positivity actually, and I see scholars coming up, and in previous few months, I've seen many Sunni scholars meeting Shia scholars, and they're sitting together, they're having meetings together, and they finally, I see a lot of positivity, and that's where I see, according to the global power dynamics and according to the changing domestic issues as well, that Sunni, because we have such huge Sunni Shia conflicts in Pakistan since from the time we got independence, you can't even imagine. We had arguments and debates on, what, do you do Rafa Yadan in namaz or not? Can you do it or not? When you're sitting for tashahhud, can you move this finger or not? We had debates on that. But now people are coming up and they're grabbing each other's hands. They're talking about unity. And we had a scholar conference as well a few months back as well. Every scholar from every party sat together and they talk about the unity and the people who are encouraging this unity. And that's absolutely amazing. And that's why I see that in next 30 to 50 years, I don't know, Muslims are the superpower. I don't know. I'm an optimist. I'm an optimist.
I like to hear that. I think that's a very good thing. So for me, what I would say, I would like to take that optimism and just add a healthy pinch of salt of not pessimism, but I would say maybe realism based on the trajectory we're taking. But I like.
Yes, right.
So what I would say is there's two sides. So from one side, where you will have, I believe, the concentration camp in China, the oppression against the Uyghur Muslims will continue because Muslim governments are too afraid to say anything to China because this is a huge global economy. I believe the Rohingya will continue to be in Myanmar. The Rohingya Muslims will continue to be oppressed, unfortunately, and we won't be able. No matter, it's on us to keep raising awareness, but that will keep happening. Palestinians continue to be oppressed, and Palestinian rights will continue to be suppressed. Government-wise, governments are going to continue to slowly move towards a trajectory of normalizing relations with Israel, doing the bidding of Western nations, of course, like the United States. However, when you have Muslims being oppressed that way, especially also like in France and in Austria, for example, in Denmark, where they're trying to oppress Muslims and take away any Muslim not-for-profits, any Muslim schools, any Muslim scholars, what that starts to happen when you start oppressing and suppressing Muslims, the Muslim population starts to get closer to Islam.
Yes, that's true. That is very true.
If you're someone who doesn't pray, doesn't fast, doesn't do any of that, and now you're being oppressed because your name is Muhammad, even though you go by Mo, your name is Muhammad, and now you're getting an ID badge saying Muslim on it, and you go, wait, World War II, didn't this end badly? And you start realizing, wait, why is this happening? And then you start researching your religion. You start getting closer to your religion. And then as Muslims, like you said, I believe as the Muslim population, not necessarily the governments, but the Muslim population in general, and the Muslim communities, we'll start seeing, wait, okay, I'm Sunni, he's Shi'i, he's whatever. Nobody cares. You're getting an ID badge, you're going to get an ID badge, you're going to get oppressed, you're going to take into a concentration camp, you're not going to get your rights, because they don't care if you're Sunni or Shi'i, you're Muslim. And that's true. The problem. So we're going to start realizing, okay, those differences here and there, put those aside.
Keep them aside, yes.
Commonality, and let's meet and discuss over these major issues. Not whether in tashahhud I'm doing this or not. Are my hands here or down?
Here.
For this, we can do this in the next 100 years. Let's focus on the big issues right now. And like I said, I think although there will be, unfortunately, a lot of oppression of Muslims continuing the next 30, 50 years, I think on the opposite side, that will also result in Muslims getting closer to their religion and hopefully some sort of unity where we see that there are bigger problems and the only way to solve them is together.
Yes, that's true. I guess that pretty much sums it up.
I believe so. Sums it up with a hint of optimism and a pinch of realism.
Yes, that's true.
That's true.
All right, so yes, that's it for today. It was great to have you on board, That Muslim Guy. Great to have a healthy conversation today, I guess. It was a productive session for me as well. I got to know about you, about your channel, and we discussed some core issues which are going on nowadays. So it's pretty much great to have you on today. So
inshallah, many more collaborations to come in the future.
Inshallah. So, no worries. Great to have you. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, Azeem. And we'll see you soon. Assalamu alaikum.
Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Peace be with you.
Thank you very much for watching. Please remember to like and share this video. Support me by subscribing to my channel. And until next time, I'm That Muslim Guy. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be with you.